Welcome back to the Arbitrary YouTube channel. Today we'll be learning how to make this beautiful pencil skirt with flounce. Okay, the flounce is like an overlapping flounce. You can see how it just bent from the sides and it extends to the back like that. It's a very beautiful skirt and it's very simple to make. If this is what you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Welcome back to the Arbitrary YouTube channel. Today we'll be learning how to make a pencil skirt with flounce detail. So I can also call it a flounce skirt. So for this, I just did my basic pencil skirt block pattern. Okay, and I've drafted it. This is the waist, the hip, and the hemline. The length I'm working with is 18 inches. The actual length of this skirt, because it's not going to be a short skirt, it's going to be a midi skirt, sorry, it's around 26 inches or thereabouts. But because there is going to be a flounce at the hemline, so I deducted my flounce measurement and then I'm left with 18 inches. Okay, so this is what I have, and then I'm going to be cutting it out. I folded the front and back together. The extension you see here is the zipper allowance for the back. So I'll cut this now and then we can draw out our shape. Okay, so now after cutting it, this is our front block and this is the back block. So we have two pieces for the back, which I'm going to set aside for now so that I can work on the front. Okay, so now that you have your front block, I'm going to open it into two. Remember, your basic skirt should have a dart. So now to create my dart, I'm going to be using my nipple to nipple measurement from the center front, which is in this case is around 4 inches, or let me say 3.5. okay, so the nipple to nipple measurement you are going to be using is your measurement from one bust to from one nipple to another. So if you have 8 inches, you are going to be dividing it by 2. If you have 7 inches, you are going to be dividing by 2, which is going to give you 3.5, which I'm measuring here. So from the center front, which is this, you are going to be measuring your 3.5 inches, which I have done, and then I'll be going down by 5 inches, and I'll make it into a straight line, and then I can take my dart. Okay, so for your dart you measure half inch. You do the same for this side also. I'm just using this to explain what I want to do to us. So now you need to decide which side of your skirt you want your flounce measurements to follow. I'm taking this side of my skirt. It can be here if that is what you want. So now you are going to be drawing the shape that the flounce is going to follow now. Now it depends on the shape you're aiming to get, but for me, I'm trying to get something like this. Okay, so from my dart measurement here, I'm going to be connecting it to my hemline in a slanting manner like this, and then I'll be repeating the same thing for this using my free hand. If you have a curve that you know can take it, you can also use it, or if you have a particular design aside this that you want to work with, you can also go with it. Okay, so because I don't want the slits of the skirt to be opening too much, so that your upper thigh will not be showing, from the uppermost part here, before I start my cuff, I want to go down by around 10 inches. It can be upper, it can be lower, or you can just go higher than this. So once I have this, it's going to be serving like as a guide for me. So from this point here is where I'll be starting my curve. I hope you get that. Okay, so from this point now I can take I have this like a leg curve. It's not like the regular curve, it's a bit longer. So from there now I'm going to take the curve and place it here, and then try to do like a curve, and I'll make sure it doesn't enter into my seam allowance. Okay, so I have something like this for the front and then I'm going to smoothen it out because I don't want it to be too sharp. Okay, so I've done this for this side, then I'm going to turn it and repeat the same process for the other side. And this is strictly because this is the style that I am going for. So I have this, and then my flounce is going to be following this direction. So once I'm satisfied with what I have here, all this will be going off. All this will be going off. I'm just going to take my scissors and then cut off this shape, this new shape that I have. Okay, remember I've also cut off my darts, and then I'll also repeat the same for this, and then I'll cut off the darts too in this case. So once I've cut it, this now becomes my new pattern. This is what I have for my front, and my back remain the same. Okay, and this is going to be my back. So now I'm going to be cutting this on the fabric, and then I'll bring it back to show us. Okay, so I have this cut on my fabric now. As you can see, I just maintained the shape that I created using my paper earlier on, and then I've replicated this on my fabric. So now we can easily start to sew it. This is the back panel, and like I said, it's going to be having two pieces, one for each side. So now to sew it, the first thing I'm going to do is to match my front and back bodies together and then sew them on the sides using the measurement that I'm working with. So as you can see, I'm going to be joining it together and then take it to the sewing machine to sew them on both sides so that I can have one piece. Like I said, I've gone ahead to sew it on the sides, on both sides, and then I also temporarily closed my zipper allowance so that I can work. So this is the back and this is the front. Okay, so this is the front part of the skirt, as you can see, and this is our flounce, the design we created for our flounce. So this is what the skirt is looking like now. The next thing for me now is to cut out my flounce. Now to cut out your flounce, it depends on the method you wish to use to cut your flounce. Basically, I either cut my flounce in form of flares, just like I have several videos of flounce on the channel already. I either cut it in form of flounce, in form of flare, or I cut it in a spiral form. Okay, I also have a video of spiral flounce on my channel, but for this tutorial I'll be cutting it in form of flare. And then to cut my flare now, because this flounce is going to be passing through this design that I have in front here, I will need to take a measurement of the space that I'm going to be passing my flounce through. So using my tape rule, I'll start from the beginning of the front here, then I'll take it round. Remember, it's going from here, from the first one here, and then it's going to pass through the back like this. Then from the back it's going to go back to the front, and then it's going to stop here. Okay, so I have around 70 inches. I hope you understand how the flounce is passing. Okay, let me show us with our paper. So remember, this is the front and the back, and this is the front. So now this is how the flounce is going to be passing. It's going to go from this place here all the way down here, and then it's going to come to the back through the two back panels, and then it's going to go back here and then on top here, which is what I just measured on my cloth. So now I have 70 inches. Now depending on how you want the frills of your flounce to be, how folding you want it to be, you can either use that 70 inches as your basic radius. Okay, it's either you use your 70 inches, it means our radius I'm working towards now is 70 inches. So now you can either use the 7 inches to be your radius to cut your full circle, which is going to be 70 divided by 6.28. But in my case, because 70 is a big number and I really want my fans to really form very well for me, so I won't be using my 70 inches directly, which means I won't be cutting just one flounce. So depending on how much fabric you have, because the number of flounce that you cut, the number of flare you cut, depending on how much fabric you are going to be using. So now the fabric I have can still take three flares, so I'll be dividing this 70 by 3. So if I divide 70 by 3, this is going to give me around 23.3, which I can approximate to be 23.5, because I'm still going to be joining them together. So it means 23.5, I'm going to be cutting 3 flares, which each of the radius is going to be 23.5. okay, so now it is not this 23.5 that I'm going to be dividing by 6.28 to know the radius I'm going to use to cut my flare. If you have watched my video on how to cut several flares, now I'm sure you understand this. This is just like cutting a 1080 degree flare. Okay, that is exactly what we are doing. So now if I divide this by 6.28, it means I will have around 3.74 for each of my radius. Okay, so now my radius is 3.74, and then the length of the flare that I'm going for, okay, so this is, and the length I'm going for the flare is around 9 inches. So it means we are going to be cutting 3 flares that will have a radius of 3.74 and the length of 9 inches. I don't want to dwell too much on that, since we already have an extensive video on how to cut flares. If you don't understand it, you may want to check that out. So now I've cut that on my fabric, and this is my flounce. Okay, so I have this as my flounce, and like I said, the length is 9 inches. The length of the flounce is 9 inches. As you can see, this is exactly 9 inches. So now, like I did, I have 3 flares, which is, this is the first one, and I've joined them. So I joined them in a way that it will not, the frills will not be showing. I joined them neatly. If you cannot do this, you can just join them and then you use a serger to just serge it like this, so that you will not be having any frills at the joining part. So I have 3 flares joined together like this to make up the 70 inches. You can see it's very big. To make up the 70 inches that I need to sew my flounce. So I have 3 flares like this joined together, and then on one part I opened it up because it's going to be opened in the front like this. So I just opened the flounce. So this is the first one, which is 1. This is the second joining here, which is this one, and this is the third joining here, and then I opened it in front. So now I'm going to be sewing this to my skirt, and I've already serged the hem line. As you can see, it's all neat. Now I'm going to bring in my skirt and then start to sew it. So just like I measured it when I wanted to cut my flounce, I'm going to start to sew from any part of my front. You can either choose from either here or here. So now I'll take it to the sewing machine now, right side facing right side, and then I'll start to sew round. Then I'll bring it back to show us. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it round. As you can see what it's looking like. I just sew it round the skirt like this. So when I open it up, this is what the skirt is looking like. You can see that our skirt is almost done. Okay, so the next thing for me now is to close the front. Even without closing this, you can see that it's already forming that shape that we created in front, and the frills, the overlap that you are seeing on the flare like this is as a result of the division I made for my radius. Assuming I just cut one flounce with my 70 inches measurement, it's not going to be folding over as much as it is now that I divided the measurement into 3. So So if you have more fabric, you can even divide it into 4 or 5 before you start cutting out your flares. It just means that if you divide by 4, you're going to be having 4 flares joined together, and if you divide by 5, you're going to be having 5 flares joined together. Okay, so now to close the skirt, I just need to remember the opening we have now is in our center front. This is the center back, and it is completely closed. So now this is the wrong side of the fabric. To close it, I just need to take the first side of the fabric here from the waist part. This is the upper part of the waist. I just need to take it together with the other side here like this, and then I'm going to tuck in the flare. You can see this is the flare inside here. I'm tucking in the flare, then I can take it back. I can take the both sides together, and then I'm going to pin it first so that we will see what I'm doing. So now I'll just be taking them together like this, and then I'll be pinning along. My flounce is already inside because I'm not going to be sewing on my flounce. So now that I've closed it, remember before I started shaping my skirt, I took a measurement of around 10 inches, I think. So now that measurement, I'm going to be taking it again. Okay, so from here I'm going to measure the 10 inches, and then using my chalk I'm going to mark it, and that is where my sewing is going to stop. So if you want yours to be more than 10 inches, which means you don't want your tie to be showing too much, you just need to go down a bit. You can go down by maybe up to 12 inches and then add like 2 or 3 inches to it, and then from there, just the seam line that I already have here, there is a seam line that I used in sewing my flounce. I'm just going to follow the line like that, and then to sew it up to the point where I stopped my marking. Okay, so I've sewn it now, as you can see, and I just stopped where I said I'm going to be stopping. So now I'm going to open it to the other side so that we can see what we have. Okay, so this is our skirt, and you can see how our flounce just forms like that, and then when it gets to this place where we stopped, it just opened with the shape that we created like that. So I'll just hang this on the mannequin now so that we can see what it looks like. But the most important part of it is that the number of flare that you decide to work with to cut depends on how this part is just going to be rolling for you like this. If it's a single flare, it may not form as much as what you're seeing here. So it requires fabric, yes, but it also gives you a beautiful finish at the end of the day. So this is the front, and this is what the back is looking like. It's very beautiful, and I'm going to take it to the mannequin now for us to see. Okay, so this is our skirt on the mannequin, and as you can see, it is very, very lovely. So this is the flounce on this side, and like I said, you can choose whatever side you want your flounce to be, and also you can also close up the flounce here. I just want mine to stand independently, but if you wish to close it, you just need to close it up here so that it just forms one for you, and then it just goes down like that. Very simple to make, and it's very beautiful. I used a shiny face bridal satin for this project, and the skirt is a little bit bigger than the mannequin, so I just had to pin it at the back so that we can see the fitting. So now this is what it looks like on the back, and this is our flounce on the back of the skirt also. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, kindly give us a comment, your like and thumbs up. Thanks for supporting our channel, we really appreciate you. See you in the next one. Bye.